the potion and suck the lives out of the children of Salem before sunrise. Otherwise, it's curtain.
Hocus Pocus, tomorrow, 7, 6 Central, followed by Don't Look Under the Bed.
If you were a child in the 90s and you had access to the Disney Channel, then you most likely loved the movies Halloween Town and Hocus Pocus. Easily the gold standard for spooky family fun. Before Disney Plus and DVD, most of these movies were only watchable during October as part of the Disney Channel Halloween lineup. If either of these movies were on, you know that me and my friends would stop whatever we're doing and watch. We couldn't get enough of them. Halloween Town received multiple sequels with various levels of quality, but Hocus Pocus didn't do so hot. When it was first released in theaters in July? Okay, I didn't even know the movie was in theaters till recently. I had always assumed it was a Disney Channel original movie like Halloween Town. But seriously, who puts a Halloween movie in July? For those not in the know, Disney had 2 Halloween movies in production in '93, Hocus Pocus and The Nightmare Before Christmas. To keep the 2 movies from cannibalizing each other in box office, they pushed Hocus Pocus to July. Now that Hocus Pocus has blossomed into the cult classic after annual airings on Disney Channel, it's only been a matter of time before Disney turned out a sequel. It's almost been 30 years since the original, and can the sequel hold up? I've watched this movie 2-3 times now, once for fun, another time in a loud family get-together, and once again for this review. And all 2.5 times I watched this movie, I caught myself thinking it was really fun and enjoyable early on, but by the end I had lost interest. I think the movie is for the most part unnecessary, but also a harmless addition to the Hocus Pocus franchise. The more I think about the movie, the more I realize there's a lot of stuff I didn't really enjoy about it, and I think I want to talk about it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Hocus Pocus 2, baby!
Yes, Salem, we're back!
But first, let's recap the 2 movies. In the first movie, we have the Sanderson Sisters, a trio of children-eating witches who cast a spell during their execution. This magical spell dictates that if a virgin lights the black flame candle during a full moon, the witches will return.
One All Hallows Eve when the moon is around, a virgin will summon us from under the ground. We shall be back!
They just need to absorb a child's soul to remain on Earth. Otherwise, at sunrise, they're going to be dead again. The movie features Max, a teenage virgin and Halloween humbug, struggling with his family's move from Los Angeles to Salem.
You mess with the great and powerful Max. I summon the burning rain of death.
The burning rain of death.
Danny, Max's kid sister, who's persisted on going trick-or-treating.
Please? Come on, we used to have so much fun together trick-or-treating.
And Allison, Max's love interest and expert on all Sanderson sister lore.
This is the spell book of Winifred Sanderson. It was given to her by the devil himself.
There's also a talking cat, a not-so-talking zombie, a book with a gnarly eyeball, and they're not really important, but I cannot not mention the 2 bullies. They're complete trash, and they ham up every scene they're in, and I fucking love it.
This is ice.
Ding dong!
Woo! Ah! Whoa! I'm a little leaguer. Whoa!
The second movie follows 2 wannabe witches, Becca and Izzi, who are struggling to maintain a friendship with the absent third, Cassie, who's in a relationship with a himbo and started dropping the witch stuff. The 3 girls have a special tradition where they light candles in the woods during Becca's birthday, but this year Becca and Izzi are on their own and they accidentally bring the Sanderson sisters back.
Witch, the witches are back!
This time the sisters choose not to kill children, but instead gather ingredients for a Powerpuff spell to get revenge on the mayor, who happens to be a descendant of the reverend that chased them out of town in the 1800s. The mayor is also Cassie's father and also Buster Blue from Arrested Development.
I'm back.
There's a talking zombie, a not-so-talking cat, and also this guy.
The Sanderson Sisters were the most powerful coven that ever lived.
Both movies' climaxes have the witches turning into glittery dust, though the first one is more of a dramatic race against time, as the witches only have enough potion to absorb 1 child's soul, and it's almost sunrise. The second movie's climax is about the witches achieving their main goal of getting a powerful buff, but they pay the price that's hinted multiple times in the movie, to the point where I think only young children won't see it coming.
Magicae Maxima makes a witch all-powerful. Doomed is the witch that uses this spell.
Beware the power spell, for it is most dangerous. Oh, fie, we have no time for warnings.
I think he wants you to read the warning. The warning? I think I know how to stop them.
I've seen a lot of people online get very emotional about the ending, but it just didn't work for me. One of my biggest problems with the second movie is that it deviates from the idea that the Sanderson sisters are pure evil and tries to paint them in a more humanized, sympathetic light.
They were ahead of their time, and they were misunderstood. The whole world was against them.
The movie starts off with the origin story of the sisters, and honestly, it's probably the best part of the whole movie. These kids are a blast to watch.
Then I took the Lord's name in vain. Twice. And look, it's Gilbert.
Open the door!
We're not here!
Anyway, the origin story has Winifred, the oldest sister, denying the wishes of the church, who want her to marry a random boy. Thus, she's being punished by having her sisters taken away from her. But she and her sisters evade the villagers by running into the Forbidden Forest where they meet Mother Witch, who gives them their spell book, warns them not to use the spell Magica Maxima, which makes the caster OP at the price of losing what they cherish most. First off, this witch is without a doubt in my mind going to be someone's sexual awakening. You could just see it. She's hot. But I personally have mixed feelings about her and the origin story of the book. In the first movie, they state that the sisters got the book from the devil, so this is obviously a retcon. The sisters also mention a mother multiple times in the first movie, and I think we're supposed to assume that the Mother Witch is the mother they're talking about, as they appear to be orphans in this movie, and she is called Mother Witch. It's kind of hard for me to believe that the sisters would go on and on about a woman they met for like 10 minutes. Granted, she did give them a book that changed their lives forever, but the relationship was so short. Also, in my second viewing, I kind of realized that the Mother Witch knows the cost of the spell firsthand, and most likely did the spell and lost her coven sisters, which is why she doesn't have a coven anymore. That little detail, the fact that it's not like spelled out, is pretty cool. Good job, movie. As I said, the movie keeps reminding us, just to set up the fact that when the Sanderson sisters do cast the spell at the end of the movie, we, the audience, know that Mary and Sarah are what Winifred cherishes the most, and that's what she's going to lose.
My beloved, infuriating sisters. Why, they were my kin. Please, wilt thou help me? My powers are nothing without my sisters. Oh, I think it is my heart. I fear it is breaking.
Which is extremely touching, but doesn't gel with me when in the first movie, Winifred literally says this.
What a fool to give up thy life for thy sisters.
And does this.
'Tis a black river. Perhaps it is not too deep.
It just kind of frustrates me that Disney is always attempting to make their villains more marketable and softening them up, which I want to remind you that these witches lure, murder, and eat children. It would be like making Cruella de Vil more oh wait, that's a bad example. It's to the point that the witches don't even hunt children in this movie, which is further frustrating because at one point they have 2 potential victims from the get-go. They're just really obsessed with this power spell.
Show me the power spell!
Then we have the new leads, which are fine and serviceable, but I think they're a little underdeveloped. I think they were trying to make them as blank slates so that younger female audiences can use them as surrogates, but I legitimately can't describe what makes Izzi, Becca, or even Cassie different from each other. I think Becca and Izzi are only 2 characters and not one because writing scenes with 2 characters talking to each other is easier to film in comparison to, say, like having only one character. You just can't have one character explain plot points to themselves. You can have 2 characters bounce off each other, and thus it makes exposition a lot easier.
Maybe we should get some salt. Why? So we taste better when they eat us? No, because it protects against dark magic. At least that's what Gilbert says to get people to buy it. Angelica leaves. They lift curses.
What was that all about?
They must have put a spell on the book or something.
Also, this is super unrelated to anything, but when I see Izzi on screen, I totally think of Isabelle from Animal Crossing. Like, she's a human Isabelle. Am I the only one that sees it? So to compare to the first movie, we had Max, Danny, and Allison, each with their own distinct personality traits and character arcs. Max has to get over moving to Salem and is sarcastic and needlessly rebellious. Danny wanted to go trick-or-treating with her brother and was very optimistic and naive. And Allison wanted to spook a non-believer, and despite coming from an obviously rich family, she was super down to earth. I liked that the first movie had an audience surrogate for every age. We had a kid character for the youngins and teens for the older audiences. With Becca, Izzi, and Cassie, you have Becca and Izzi both struggling with losing a friend and trying to do their tradition without her.
I know. It's kind of sad he doesn't realize Cassie kicked us to the curb.
The only thing that makes Becca and Izzi different is that Becca turns out to be magically gifted. Outside of that, they act as a unit. Going back to the first movie, it was Max's fault for resurrecting the witches. He was a skeptic, and he was trying to prove a point that magic wasn't real, and because of that, his ignorance is what brought back the witches. This movie makes the protagonist a little bit more passive in the story, with someone else setting up the stage. So cards on the table, I don't like Gilbert in this movie. I think the actor's fine, and his facial expression game is on point, but he feels so unnecessary. Like he's only here so that Billy the zombie has something to do.
Guess what? They're back. Again.
So Gilbert's retconned into having been in the first movie's climax, becoming obsessed with the Sanderson sisters and researching all about them, coming to the conclusion that the witches were misunderstood and seeing them as victims. He's not a virgin, so he can't light the candle himself, so he needed someone else to do it unwillingly. Enter Becca and Izzi. Luckily, he immediately gets what's coming to him, being forced to gather ingredients, including the head of the zombie for the sisters, or he'll die. He spends most of the movie hanging out with Billy, tricking him into thinking he's creating a spell to defeat the sisters, but what he's really doing is creating a spell to save himself. I just don't think he was necessary, nor was him tricking Becca and Izzi. I think it would have been a stronger movie if, like the original, the main protagonists were directly intentionally involved with bringing the sisters back, thus making it their direct responsibility to defeat them. If Gilbert was so obsessed with the sisters and wanting to bring them back since childhood, why didn't he stay a virgin?
What's a virgin?
That is a person who has never lit a candle.
Why does he have to trick a couple of young girls? Why does he own the cottage now? Why did Allison's family, who originally owned the cottage in the 90s, sell it to him? At the very least, why didn't Allison, Max, or Danny keep the Book of Spells to prevent misuse? This would have been a great way to include a legacy character. Okay, so this might be a little too similar to the original movie, but I think I would have preferred if the girls stole the Black Flame candle to add to their ritual, and thus making it their fault directly that the witches returned. Something about someone else tricking them and them doing it unwillingly and unknowingly just doesn't set well with me. I just feel like them reviving the witches should have been more tied to their personal character arcs. It kinda is, but just something about the fact that they weren't proactive in the choice, I just don't like it. So the sisters sing a lot more in this movie, more than they ever did in the original. Like, they sing immediately after they return.
Changing, now we're on the attack. Yeah, the spell is gonna hit ya, 'cause the witches are back.
Which even the protagonists are a little confused by this.
Who are they performing for?
In the first movie, it's well known that the witches have this big musical number midway through. Max outs them as witches at a Halloween party, and they have to pretend to be part of the act. These witches have been dead for 3 centuries, and thus they shouldn't know any pop culture songs. But because they were hanging out at the party, they heard the song first, so they're able to perform I Put a Spell on You.
I put a spell on you.
I put a spell on you.
Which doubles as a curse that they put on the townspeople to doom them to dance to death, effectively rendering the town useless.
Dance until you die!
In the second movie, they shamelessly do the same thing again. You see the sisters show up to a lookalike contest, and after losing, they perform one way or another unprompted, and without hearing the song. Which left me and my partner being like, how do they know this song, right? Like, what the fuck?
And you.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And like the first movie, the song is used to put a spell on the townspeople once again. This time it turns them into a flash mob. Also, real quick, I think the way the crowd moves during the song is really cool. But like, the flash mob is supposed to be going after the mayor. And when they find him, they just kind of touch him and then disappear. They do steal his apple, which is kind of funny. But like, what was the point? And in the same sequence, we see that people are watching the first movie on TV. And that's full Gremlins 2. And you don't go full Gremlins 2. Gremlins 2 already did that.
Listen up. Do I have to come up there myself? Well, if I were you, I'd run the rest of Gremlins 2 right now. Sorry, folks.
I normally love Tony Hale, but his mayor character, especially early on, is pretty insufferable. He's great as the Reverend, and there's points in the later in the movie where I kind of like the mayor, but like early on, it's just ugh.
Remember when Cassie would bring like 10 flashlights with us?
I feel like I'm coming down hard on this movie, but I want to remind you that I do enjoy parts of it. The beginning, during the flashback sequence, is a lot of fun. And I think them taking chances with making the new protagonist also be in witchcraft is really cool. I think the Sanderson sisters are a hoot, and I love watching them, and the movie's great just by having them in there.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
There is a small woman trapped in that box.
Oh, yes. I still don't understand.
Is that what I look like? Damn, girl, we look foxy. Sew up your lips, you pious, pompous dunderhead.
Okay, we're giving a performance now.
And the movie isn't that far off from being amazing, it just gets a little muddled in the details. And I have to admit that I'm actually kind of interested to see where the series goes. There's an end credit stinger implying that the possible turn of the Sanderson sisters, and the movie left off implying that the protagonist trio are going to be the next coven to rival the Sandersons. I am interested to see where it's going. Not really because I'm excited per se, but I'm just really curious, you know?
What do we do? I don't know, but I literally can't stop watching them.
But it's obvious that Disney wants to make this into an active franchise. So what do you think? If you disagree with me or agree with me, please let me know down in the comments, especially if I missed something. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, ring the bell, and do all the things. Until next time, I'll see you then.